Welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to be reading to you from Non-Fungible.com. Again, my name is Namdi, and welcome back to Empathy's Money Show. In this show, talk about empathy, importance of compassion. As we dive into the world of NFTs, crypto, got really interested in this space. With as many of you, at the same time as many of you who have been, it's been on the news recently, but I've been in crypto for a couple of years now, going on 3 years. And this is a space that continues to evolve. It's a gift that keeps on giving. So we are currently reading from nonfungible.com. It's the largest database of blockchain, gaming, and crypto collectible markets. So let's dive right into their blog space and see what's new. This article is the Ecological Impact of NFTs was written. And NFTs are becoming more and more mainstream. Many internationally renowned artists are starting to sell their albums as NFTs. Other artists are linking their physical work to NFTs from the perspective of selling them more easily on dedicated platforms such as Maker's Place, Nifty Gateway, Super Rare, or Known Origin. But with the popularization of NFTs, certain questions have arisen that have not always been foreseen by artists, users, or even developers, and recently a debate has started regarding what the ecological impact of NFTs could be for the planet. And it was only a matter of time before this conversation comes up. There's just characteristic of all bubbles. There's the hype and everyone rushes in. Then after a while, we have to pump our brakes and start to evaluate what the collateral damage is. I like to focus more on positive and how are we as humans benefiting from it, and how are we improving other humans' lives. Now, obviously, there are other people who care more about things that are of less priority, in my opinion. But we all have a role to play, and so let's move on. The question of ecological impact in blockchain, and more precisely the electricity consumption generated by blockchain using proof of work, isn't new, and so it's not really surprising this question is being asked today in our no longer so small community. It's hard to ignore the criticisms leveled at the industry overall, which in less than 10 years has seen the need for miners to move from computers to dedicated machines in huge warehouses comparable to the data centers of Google or Facebook. Now, as the space continues to grow, you're going to see people move into crypto and NFTs as a career path, as a business. And just like every other business, it begins as a startup, and then it grows and it scales into a massive production because you have to service more and more people. So with that, the conversations around environmental friendliness and protection, those conversations are starting to come up. It's become difficult to ignore, but by putting things into perspective, certain points put forward by Memo Acton and Joni Lemercier are still best viewed in hindsight. The initial intention was to raise a debate around the ecological conscience of the users and actors in the NFT space, but also to look at the political convictions which surround this new universe. Because that's obviously what we're talking about here. On the other hand, prevent worsening the disastrous consequences of globalization policies on the planet and not fall back into the trap of neoliberalism, the social consequences of which are well established. Except that to achieve this, banning is not the right option. It never has been, even less in the crypto space, because it is based on two fundamental principles: censorship resistance and consensus. So rather than wanting to enter into an open war by making the actors of this ecosystem feel guilty, which will end up leading to a sterile debate at best, let's think together about the solutions that we can provide to build a world of tomorrow whose digital aspect will be part of our everyday life, no matter what. This article is written by Bicencia on March 13th. You know, I'm agreeing with this guy. I'm agreeing with this author. I know they're thinking like I am. I prefer to have conversations that are progressive rather than demonizing or canceling people. We're all it's a journey. You know, when you start out in any space or whenever any when something becomes popular and gets into the national discourse or global discourse and global awareness, first there are people who jump into it who seek who are opportunistic and looking for arbitrage opportunities. But then it's important to begin the conversation around being conservative, scaling back, protecting the environment, weeding out nefarious actors. I like that conversation, but it has to come from in my view, it has to come from a perspective of building rather than destroying. There are a lot of people who like to have these conversations, but they want to destroy what other people have built. It takes work, or it takes a lot of dedication and work to build, to create art, to create NFTs, to create anything. So when people spend their time creating, I don't appreciate when there are people around who virtue signal and look to destroy what they've putting in a lot of work into. A fallacious methodology. First of all, there is something particularly disturbing about these articles. We have read statements such as a transaction costs blank in CO2. The power consumption of miners only comes into action when writing transactions to a new block. To be more precise, as the blocks are generated automatically approximately every 15 seconds or so, the comparison with the emissions from taking a plane journey does not hold. This is because even if it's possible to leave the planes on the ground, and we could see during the first confinement that this was not the case for lack of available places in the airports, it's not possible to stop a proof of work blockchain by design. There's a little diagram here. It goes into a little bit more detail about the Ethereum network. So it further goes into explanation. Whether for a simple or complex transaction, NFTs are in a kind of waiting room called mempool. And these mempools only require the power consumption of the very node that receives it. Making the user feel guilty by saying your NFT transaction will cause planetary catastrophes is simply not true. As the size of each block is limited, the number of transactions that can be contained in each block is also constrained. If the miners decide to turn on more machines to find new blocks, it's not because the number of transactions are increasing, but because the price of Ether is increasing and therefore makes the block reward more attractive. So yes, for the moment, to have a good ecological conscience by creating NFTs, the only solution is to use a proof of stake system. And recently, Vitalik Buterin is trying to speed up the process of this transition for Ethereum. But since he will not do this at the expense of network security, it is taking time. In his article on Medium, Memo Acton specifies that it is a question of the estimated carbon footprint, and at the same time recognizes that his methodology is not intended to be scientifically approved, but rather to raise awareness that the system of proof of work is energy intensive. So, characteristic of human beings, we are impatient, especially in this new age, this microwave um, generation, as they refer. We want things now, we want them fast. Proof of stake, proof of work, Ethereum blockchain. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes by Vitalik Buterin and his friends, the developers behind the Ethereum blockchain. They're trying to improve it. If you've been paying attention, if you've ever tried to use the Ethereum blockchain, you know how expensive it's become lately, and a lot of that is attributable to the influx of new players and people, the new awareness. The crypto space is growing. More people are hopping into it, and with that comes congestion, and then there are higher fees. And because this is a time when a lot of the players in this space are just looking for arbitrage opportunities, a lot of people don't understand the technology behind what they're using, the NFTs or Ethereum or any of such. They don't understand the technologies and what they're really doing. They're just looking for arbitrage opportunities. So you have a lot of people who have jumped into this space, and hence there's congestion. But I can guarantee you that just like with anything in the crypto space, it's going to evolve. It's going to get better. It's just taking a little bit of time. I think that I just recently watched an interview with Vitalik Buterin, who is one of the founders of Ethereum. I think that was an interview on the Tim Ferriss podcast. He alluded that there's going to be major improvements before summer this year, summer of 2021. I believe he was making reference to like April, May. We're more likely to see something new is going to come. We're going to have some type of improvement with the Ethereum. So I'm hoping that the improvement that they're working on will address the high gas fees problem. And even if it's delayed, just know that there are other blockchains that are stepping up to the game. EOS, Neo. There are other blockchains that are stepping up to Zelica to replace Ethereum. Not necessarily replace Ethereum, but to provide a space for transactions to happen at a much cheaper gas fee. So just take advantage of this technology, bearing in mind that it's a process. It's going to be improving over time. Moving on with this article, a green paradox. So yes, thank you for the reminder, Memo. We are certainly all aware that our planet is experiencing global warming, worrying rising waters, and we've created the continental worth of plastic in completely artificial ways. But is this a good reason to be so vigorous in this anti-blockchain and not necessarily anti-NFT lobbying by believing that the community of crypto artists have no ecological conscience? What if it was the other way around? Right, like I said, when people stand around a corner and point fingers and throw stones, I pay less attention to them, because the conversation has to come from a more constructive point of view rather than blaming people, because we're all responsible for the damages or whatever destruction is going on in this planet. Where we've become, over the past 40 years, more materialistic, our consumerism level has gone up, and it's only gonna get worse. So yeah, we need to do something about our ecological impact, but it needs to be a more collaborative effort rather than a punitive effort. Offsetting. In an article by Everest Pipkin, the issue of offsetting is approached as a hypocritical way to take green credit with the planet and buy yourself a clear conscience. What is offsetting? To give an impression, it is the idea of planting a number of trees equivalent to our carbon footprint to compensate. If this idea seems hypocritical, it is because the argument against this practice is to consume less and plant more trees, not to consume more and to plant more. Not everyone wants the choice of an absolute decrease to the point of eliminating all computers and electricity on the planet, but at the same time, everyone is aware that something must be done to limit the risks and create harmony. Offsetting is a practice of risk reduction, a balance somewhere between risk zero and the excessive pollution of the planet. Why has this solution increased popularity over time? Probably because one of the big concerns today with companies and associations that offer the offsetting service is that no one can verify where the funds they collect for this type of operation actually go. Blockchain fixes this. The question of trust is fundamental to any blockchain player, and often the phrase, any project is a scam until proven otherwise, is true. Anyone today who wants to check in a tamper-proof way where funds really go or how a particular choice of action is voted for has good reason. We are talking about public policy here. What could be more normal than everyone able to openly access this information? This is exactly what the Offsetra project proposes, to put DAI token in receivership so that the interest generated in this way will be donated to Ecological project. It is also that of NFT, which aims to raise awareness on the one hand about the ecological issue while using an eco-friendly blockchain crown. All right. So, Offsetra project, haven't heard of that before. Click on it and see what it's all about. I don't know if you can still see that screen. It kicked us out. Okay, Offsetra, say it seems like a project here. Support high quality pro climate projects. We are creating new and interesting ways to support great carbon reduction initiatives, make up for the emissions you couldn't avoid. So let's see, they have, it's like a project. Let me see about the team, about us. We are a team of entrepreneurs, academics, and developers determined to make a difference. Our mission, our founders and advisors are experienced in the tech, energy, sustainability sectors. We decided to come together and put our talents, time, and passion towards something bigger. Offsetra has some specific goals in Kurt, blah, blah, blah. So these guys are, where are they located? They're located in the UK. We have some LinkedIn images of them. There's about 7 people. All right. Like a pretty, like a new team here, a new project that's ongoing. So, carbon offsetting, how it works. So they talk about their knowledge base here and what they plan to do. I would recommend going to their website if you want to get more information on what they're doing. It's offsetra.com, offsetra.com. So going right back to where we were. Renewable energy. Equally important is the issue of renewable energy to miners. Here too, it's a balance between consuming zero and running the old machines at full speed to try to find a new block. Trying to determine the carbon footprint with a simplistic calculation to create a sensation is once again not a good method to convince the actors who will be able to make a difference. Why? Because the miners who responded to the Cambridge University study must remain in good faith until their power consumption can be verified on the blockchain. Overall, the renewable energy estimate is around 40%, but a closer look shows that mining farms mainly mine Bitcoin. And we have a graph here. Beside global consensus on Bitcoin, the popularity of other proof-of-work coins varies across world regions. So we have a bar graph here, tallied. It's a table categorized under the different continents and the tokens. So coins mined by regions. And it looks like BTC here is the most mined token, followed by Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. So Bitcoin is at 94% in Asia Pacific, 100% in Europe, 88% in Latin America and the Caribbeans, and 86% in North America. I don't know why Africa is never represented in these charts. That tells me there's a lot of room, a lot of space for innovation in Africa. Okay, moving right along. It's been shown more than once that the ecological impact of Bitcoin transactions is not proven, so we won't go into that. So knowing that the majority of NFTs are minted on Ethereum, let's go even further into the study. So looks like energy sources by region. Just looking at this graph here, it's clear that that hydroelectric power source or energy source is by far the most used, and in Latin America comes up at the top of power consumption, followed by coal. So you have hydroelectric, coal, and then natural gas is used for mining. Hydroelectric, that's interesting. So you're looking at places close to dams and just water or hydro turbines. That's interesting. That's actually very clean energy. If they're using hydroelectric power to mine, then their carbon footprints, it's got to be super small. So reading on in this article, it says, before claiming victory over the use of South America's hydropower, it is important to remember a very important point: the impact of giant dams, which is an ecological disaster on the forest ecosystem in that region of the world. We could also question the efficiency of solar panels, particularly because of the maintenance required so that the collection of the sun is not disturbed by dust. We note that oil is also mainly used, but is this a surprise in a region which has one of the most important oil reserves on the planet? So they're using hydroelectric power, coal, natural gas, wind, oil, solar, nuclear, geothermal, and other sources for mining, for energy sources, for energy for mining. So we clearly don't have a perfect solution here. It has to, like I said, the conversation has to be a collaborative conversation with a focus on building, a focus on a collaborative effort to find a solution that is ecologically friendly. So far, and it has to be a compromise, because I don't think that there's going to be, just based on the energy sources that we have and the technology where it's currently at, there's no win-win here. It has to be a compromise. And that's what this article continues to, I believe, summarize. It says here, there's no perfect solution. One solution will be that everyone puts down their weapons. We sit down and we think rather than continuing to bicker over problems which should unite us rather than divide us. Individual empowerment is the cornerstone of global change, since the only real power people have today are their choices as consumers. The term consume actor has been apparent for a few years now, and it is not surprising. In our time when money is king, only the final purchase decision acts as a vote to encourage the companies or individuals behind a product. To those who still doubt it, NFTs are indeed the realization of the oldest dream of libertarianism: turn the world into an asset and put it up for sale on a free market. Some will find it terrible, others will find it a major development in our society. I really like that definition here. That, this idea that there's lack, or that people are poor, is absurd. It's just, it turns out it's just because that we haven't figured out how to make normal day-to-day things that we already have, turn them into assets instead of liabilities. When you approach a poor farmer in rural Africa, and we characterize or describe this individual or this family as poor because they don't have what we consider money or what we've agreed to be money. I find that that is a wrong definition. We've failed to recognize that this individual, no matter, they might be cash poor, but what is it in their immediate environment do they have, or do they have control over, that can be turned into an asset? Because it doesn't matter where you are in this planet, there's something under your control that can be turned into asset. Is it the land that you're sitting on or standing on? Is it do you have cattle? Do you have crops? Whatever the case may be, it can be turned into asset. And we can help that individual develop that asset and put it into the free market. And I believe this is where NFT plays a huge part to liberate all of us and liberate people who have been forever denigrated and disenfranchised. And a lot of us privileged folks who are out here in the West, we fail to recognize that, we're not the only inhabitants of this world. We live in this bubble where it seems like everything has to cater to us and to our greedy needs. But there's a whole world out there, billions of people who, to them, an idea of NFT, something like an NFT that allows them to tokenize their asset or tokenize whatever property that they have, put it up on a blockchain so that it's open to the global market. It's a matter of life and death for them. So we have to look at talk about these things in perspective. Yeah, the argument might be around ecological protection and green and all of that, but have we first stopped to consider that there are people who don't even have food to eat? There are people who are barely surviving, and we need to help them. We need to focus on helping those people improve their lives, or providing them with this technology and making it better so that they too can find a place where they can move up in that Maslow's hierarchy from just surviving to be able to have these same conversations about ecological protection. Because if you're not able to feed yourself, then you don't have it's a luxury to have a conversation about protecting the planet. All right. So in conclusion, it's important here not to get the wrong enemy and to use blockchain for what it really is, a technological tool. Like any tool, it is how you use it that will determine its positive usefulness or not. The criticisms around the ecological impact of proof of work are already known, and the actors have been trying for years to reduce their carbon footprint. If this industry never gives up on this technology, it is because it is convinced of one thing: it will change the world. If the goal is to get ETH2 faster, it can start with rounds on Gitcoin to encourage Web3 developers. It can also be to donate the profits obtained from sales directly to reliable NGOs, or even ask for more creations linked to political, social, and ecological causes. Blockchain education for the population must continue, and to be fully effective, the next steps to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past is on the other hand is raising awareness, not blaming the users, but above all around activism against the use of private and centralized blockchains. With widespread use of blockchain, it will be possible to have reliable and above all tamper-proof data in almost all industries, whether in the course of a supply chain, the energy consumption of individuals or companies, or even fraud by those responsible for climate change. Full ownership of its assets should not be called into question, because allowing central agencies to have too much decision-making power would amount to the same pattern of deviations that have brought us to this situation that we see today. Rather than saying don't create any more NFTs, it will be better to encourage crypto artists who are successful in helping initiatives to reduce pollution. Accountability is the dissemination of objective information so that everyone can make an informed choice, and certainly not belittling by judging the choices of others without knowing the liabilities of that individual. The definition of libertarianism and libertarian is in this article is established according to the French definition of the term. So this was a beautiful article written. I agree with a lot of it. Yes, we need to focus on, we can walk and chew gum. Like we can create NFTs and support the technology and support its solution, the solutions that it's bringing to humanity and how it's lifting people out of poverty, while we can also fund projects that are focused on protecting the planet. We can also fund activism. We can fund people who lobby for policies. We can do both. I question people who attack those who are creating NFTs. I have a feeling that these people are nefarious actors. They're probably centralized organizations that are trying to limit the expansion of this space. But just like everything in the crypto space or technology as a whole, you're fighting a losing battle when you try to limit the expansion of technology. We're moving in that direction, and we're moving in that direction at an exponential rate. So it's a waste of time. I encourage you all to focus on collaborative efforts and focus on building rather than tearing down. All right, this is where I'm going to wrap up this video. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank you all for joining me in learning, and I will continue on the next video. I'll see you guys next time. Again, my name is Namdi. It's the Empathy is Money channel. Feel free to subscribe and share this video. Leave a comment down below if there's anything that you want me to share, or if you have any inputs. And we'll see you next time. Peace.